Message matters because it does, of course. I chose that name because I believe it. I truly believe that your message matters. And every week when we come together, message matters because it does, of course.
Oh,
I chose that. It does, of course.
oh goodness. You have to love
I chose.
technology. So I'm streaming to YouTube, and if you know, I'm a little bit new with this. So I'm going to go ahead and double check everything, and then I'll be able to kind of cut this front part off. But I also want to make sure that we are recording, and we are. So kind of a restart here. We're going to try this again. Me and technology, if you've followed me at all, you know, it's a little crazy. Here we go. Welcome to Your Message Matters. This is where ideas soar and impact roars. That's my hope for you and your message, because I truly believe in my heart of hearts that your message does matter. That's why I named this show appropriately, I think, because your message does matter. My name is Lori Raupe, and I'm the founder of the Butterfly Publishing Company. We are a one-stop shop for nonfiction authors, and we create self-published books mostly, with a few others, but that's our niche. Is we believe in self-publishing and keeping control over your intellectual property and royalties, by the way. So I am thrilled to have you today, whether you are joining me live or if you're watching the recording. I am so grateful that you're here. Here on Your Message Matters, we talk about everything to do with nonfiction books. And I love quotes. Do you love quotes too? If you're like me, I am inspired by what people say. So today's quote is, storytelling is the oldest form of education. That's true, right? Even back in caveman days, what did they do? They etched out stories on the walls of caves and things that you can still find today. That's fascinating when you think about it, isn't it? I think so. So we can educate with our books. We can inform with our books. We can inspire people with our stories that are articulated in our books. We can make an impact. Don't you think? Well, I know it's true, but do you know it's true? I hope you do, because it's so important for us to share our stories and to help people along the way with those things that we've been through. Am I right? I think I am. So today's show has come from a place in my heart that's been sort of on a journey for a while. A few months ago, I heard one of my favorite podcast shows, Ed Milet, talk about self-sabotage. And I've been letting his words marinate deep in my soul, in my mind, just thinking about, where do I self-sabotage? I'm not sure all of the places, but a few things came to light when I started meditating on that very question. So after I heard the podcast, and I really believe that we hear things that we need to hear. There's no coincidences in life. I think that we don't just happen along information. There was a purpose for me hearing that. And today, I hope you feel the same, that there is a purpose for you hearing the same message. So this weekend, so I had all of that going on before this weekend. This weekend was quite a lovely event. On Saturday, all day, one of my favorite influencers, her name is, in fact, I happen to have her book right here. If you haven't heard about this one, it's Jamie Lima, or Jamie Kern Lima. I don't know why I want to say her name backwards every time, but I do. Jamie Kern Lima, and her brand new book, Worthy. So
I was thinking about self-sabotage and what ways do I do that, and how could I learn from that message and help others learn too? Then this comes along. I received this book last month, but here's the funny thing. And we're going to have a show just about this, but I wasn't quite ready to share all the information I've gathered so far. I purchased this book almost at least, well, in June of 2023. June of 2023, and I got it last week because it was going through the whole promotional pre-sale process. So let me ask you, maybe you might want to consider something like that for your book. It's another thought that I'm mulling over in my own mind to help my authors that work with me. So I ordered this last June and got it on Wednesday, and then Saturday all day there was, I apologize for my dog. Uh, live video is so much fun, but it has its challenges. And this morning I woke up to hammering next door. They're doing some kind of something going on, and my poor dog is so freaked out with the hammering noise. And well, let me just apologize in advance. If you hear my dog barking, that's why. I'll try to keep him under control so we can get through our topic on self-sabotage, but maybe we should just talk about sabotage because sometimes it feels like there's a sabotager in the world. In fact, I know there is. So all day Saturday was a 12-hour event about being worthy, feeling worthy, owning your worthiness. And I loved the different speakers that came and shared their insights on the book because it was a book launch, but also just teaching what they know about worthiness. So I was thinking about the whole idea of self-sabotage. Where do I sabotage myself? What does that mean to me? How can I make some changes that might really make a difference in my own life? Because I think when we hear things, we have to reflect on that and figure it out. So I started really putting into place some different things in my own life just so that I could identify, am I self-sabotaging? What could I do differently? And how could I help others with this message? And then Saturday all day, hearing the all day event, it was over 12 hours that Jamie had speakers come and speak about what they know on the topic, how they show up in the world, what their insights to help the audience, which was me in this case, and all of the other people. I think there were 250,000 people participating in that day. And so out of all of that is what I come to you with today. I think that there are just two things. If we did these two things, it would make all the difference in the world. I know I do self-sabotage. I've seen it show up in different ways in my life. I also know that I feel more worthy today of success, of the things that have happened in my life, of the good stuff, the favor I have. I believe that it didn't come coincidentally. I also believe I didn't have to do anything to get it, but I also know that my efforts have paid off. And I know that almost sounds like a contradictory statement, right? I don't have to do anything to feel worthy. That comes from my faith. I don't have to do something. I just have to acknowledge, I think, and appreciate and show gratitude and feel loved. That's what my Heavenly Father wants for me, and He wants that for you too. So, setting that aside, I also believe that we need to take action in our life. So, some of the things that we can do to feel more worthy is acknowledge who we are and whose we are. acknowledge the things that we've accomplished in life. Yes, I think these are important. We can also acknowledge our mistakes, make them learns. I really feel that when we know better, we do better. But can't we totally beat ourselves up for all of the things that we do and haven't done and could have done and should have done differently? All of those thoughts have been floating around in my mind for a little bit of time now. So, the first question I think that we really need to ask ourselves when we want to know, are we self-sabotaging? Where are we self-sabotaging? Where did it come from? What's the root of it? And how can we make some changes? The first thing I identified in my own life, and I hope you'll identify it in yours, is the question of, am I looking in the windshield of my life or am I looking in the rear view mirror? I mean, think about that for a minute. Cars have this giant windshield and a little tiny rear view mirror, maybe up here and over on the sides, right? So you can see in the back. And the biggest view is the forward motion, where we're going. There's a good reason for that. We don't want to hit the car in front of us, right? But it's also important to take a glance behind us, but not focus on what's behind us. There's a lesson there, not just for good driving habits, but for the way we treat our lives, by the way we look forward rather than continuing to look back. We've all heard Einstein's definition of insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. But I never really considered that he might have been talking about our thoughts. I saw a statistic not long ago that said that 85% of our thoughts today are the same as the thoughts we had yesterday. Now, as a coach and a person who prides herself on getting things done, that flabbergasts me. What a waste of time. You can't change any of it, can you? You can't unring a bell, but we can do better. We can't fix what was done, but we can fix our future by doing things different, by thinking a little bit different, by focusing not only on what's ahead of us right now, even the future, looking at the bigger picture, but not focusing so much on the past, except there is value in looking at how we can do things differently. But I'm talking about dwelling on the past. We don't want to be dwelling on the past. I would say, I have a thing with that. I have dwelled in the past a lot. I have pain in my past, and it affects me today. I know it does. Is it self-sabotaging? I hope not. But I don't really know how to fix that because you see, there are people in my past that are no longer here. And I have a hard time reconciling how can I not think about things in the past because I have great memories of things in the past. So I don't want to erase my past because if I erased my past, I'd be erasing people I love and care about and want to think about. But I think that's different than what I'm talking about today when it comes to self-sabotaging. Now, if I let those things take me down a rabbit trail that was not healthy for me, that would be self-sabotaging. Absolutely. So one thing that we absolutely can do is focus on the future. You've heard it before, but paint a picture of what the future might look like. And what is your next best step towards it? So that would be the number one thing when I took out the trash, so to speak, and held on to what I wanted to hold on to when it came to the whole idea of self-sabotage. That was the thing that made me really contemplate, where am I spending my time focusing? What am I focusing on? Am I actually recreating things I don't want to create in my life through my thoughts? I might be. Something to think about for sure. Not to dwell on past, but to improve my future. I ran a quick inquiry in Google to ask what kinds of thinking, what kinds of things. Well, here's the exact query that I did. How thinking about the past does not serve us now or in the future. That was what I asked. And here's what I got in resources that could help me with this whole idea. I think if we are living in the past, we are not focusing on the future. And when we're living in the past and rehashing all these conversations we've had and all of the things that we've done and all of the, especially the things that didn't turn out well, when we're focusing on that, we may be recreating it in our future. So that's what I wanted to know, is what resources could I use to kind of help me not do that? I want to know better how to visualize my future, because there is power in our thoughts. There's also power in our words. So I came up with, or Google, my friend, Google, came up with these 3 resources that you have probably already heard of. Eckhart Tolle wrote a book called The Power of Now. Tolle emphasizes in his book the importance of living in the present moment and explains how dwelling on the past can prevent us from experiencing peace and fulfillment. Well, I know that that is true, and that book has been around a bit. I think it's a good resource. Here's another one by the Dalai Lama. I didn't know the Dalai Lama wrote books. Just saying. I didn't even have a clue that that was true, but it makes sense. He wrote a book called The Art of Happiness, and his book explores the concept of happiness and suggests that focusing too much on past regrets can hinder our ability to find joy in the present. Well, that's true for sure. Here's another one, The Untethered Soul. Have you ever read this book? It's by Michael A. Singer, and he explores the idea of freeing oneself from past pains and limitations to live a more liberated life, focusing on the importance of inner peace and present moment awareness. Present moment awareness. I like that. Because I think we do need to really fully embrace where we are. And so when I tied all of those things to this new book that I just got, Worthy. Now, truth be told, have not read it yet, but I am going to be reading it. I even got the workbook. It's something like 120 some odd pages. I printed it out. Can you believe it? It took a while. So I'm excited to go on an exploration of whether or not I am worthy. I know I am. I really don't feel that I struggle with this. And I may have told you about this crazy experience that happened to me a few years ago. It was a Tony Robbins event. And he was challenging somebody else to think about what she was thinking and how she was embracing life. And through that, I gleaned something for myself that I wanted to experiment with. And I have a flip chart that I use sometimes to just keep my focus on certain thoughts. It's one of those really big, giant ones on an easel. And at the time, I was doing different kinds of trainings and things, and I was writing on this big, giant pad. And I wrote a big circle, and in the middle, I put myself. I just wrote Lori. And I said, I am enough. And it would make me cry. You could have heard me tell this story before, but literally, I couldn't say, I am enough without crying. Now that's weird, don't you think? I thought it was even at the time. It was like it would choke me up. I am enough. Just those simple words, I am enough. That's worthiness. I am enough. I challenge you to say it. I know today that I am enough because I believe that God is within me. He is directing my path. He is showing me things. He's creating wisdom in my life. I know all of that's true, but sometimes we want to just look in the mirror into our own eyes and say, who's in there? Who is that? It's me. I'm in there and I am enough. Well, when I was doing that exercise and I would cry every day and I'd try to say it and it would create tears and I would ask myself, why do I not feel like I'm enough? And that's a whole topic in itself. Well, over time, I was able to say it like I am now. I am enough. But then I added a little more to that. And that was the kicker of all kickers to me. I said, I am enough. And I've always been enough. I've always been enough. Even that little girl that felt so insecure, that little girl that thought that she was broken or damaged, that little girl, she was enough too. And at the time, I would just bawl my eyes out. It was just so big of an impact. And I think had I not gone through that experience of really looking at me, my value, my worthiness, where we derive self-esteem. If I had not looked at that back then, this last Saturday and the 12 hours I spent listening to all of the speakers who talked would have been different. I don't think it would have been more or less impactful because I really believe that things come along right when they're supposed to. I needed to hear some other things that might not have been where I could say I am enough, but that I do feel worthy of the success that I have today and that I will have in the future, God willing. So the number one thing I think we can do to stop sabotaging ourselves is to visualize our future instead. When we start replicating what happened in the past over and over in our mind, it does not serve us well. This just happened to me recently. My daughter was in my home and she said something, oh, that even today, it's been a week, a little over a week since she was here. And even today, it still hurts my heart. It wasn't directed at me, but it was how she felt. And of course, as a mom, I wanted to fix it right away. It's like, oh my gosh, honey, of course that's not true. We had had such a precious time together. And that has been one of those thoughts that has played over and over again in my head because I don't remember how I reacted. My heart broke. I think I was flabbergasted that she even said such a thing. And like I said, it wasn't something I had done, but it was something she experienced that, ooh, was a big thing. So I've hashed it over in my head over and over again. How did I react? Did I react like a good mom would or should? Did I say the right things? I don't even know what I said at the time. But here's the thing. Here's what I know I can do about it. What I can do about it is I can revisit that moment with her. We're going to have a mother-daughter weekend coming up soon. And during that mother-daughter weekend, I'm going to do to her what my mother did to me. I'm going to put my hands on her cheeks like this, and I'm going to tell her, oh, honey, I'm so proud of you. And I'm going to have a little heart to heart for just a moment and tell her what I thought about that moment since I've had time to think about it. You see, we can not fix what happened in the past, but we can kind of do a redo. And if we need to do a redo, do your redo. So rather than continuing to dwell in the past, now I already have a solution for it. I can get it out of my mind. So if there's something in your mind that keeps reoccurring, dig a little deeper and see what you can do to rework it for the future. The second thing I think that we can all do is evaluate who we're hanging around. Now, I know you've heard this too. This call today, this time today with us is not anything new, but maybe it's time to have a fresh look at it. Who are we hanging around? And are they our balcony people who are feeding good words into our life? Or are they like the crabs that are pulling us down? That's something to think about too. I think when we spend time on social media, this can happen because we start comparing ourselves to everybody else's successes. Because that's really most of what we see on social media. Just recently, I went to the um, dermatologist, and my face the next day and the few days later it was blistered, it was ugly. I felt very insecure about it. I didn't realize how vain I was about my looks. I didn't want to go out. I didn't even want to do the show that week. Funny, right? But I had to overcome. I had to think differently. I had to go, well, hey, this is crazy. I took a picture of myself and I almost posted it on social media just for the heck of it. Because you know what? We always post ourselves in the best light. But what would happen if we posted something like that that showed us in the worst light? I don't know. I didn't do it. Maybe I need to do it still. I don't know. I'm going to think about it. But who do we let into our soul? Is it people we don't even know on social media that are tearing us down because of a subliminal thought that we aren't good enough? I don't know. Is it actual friends? Because we all need those friends around us that build us up, that brainstorm with what we're doing and how we're doing it and how they could help us and how we can help them. You know, it's funny. When you're writing a book, you're putting yourself out there. And that's why I think this topic is so valuable for writers. Take a deep look on your last 90 days. Get out a pen and paper right now and start writing down some of the notes about what you've been thinking about. What events happened that created you to think about it day and day and day? What are the things that are holding you back? Maybe for the next few days, just ask yourself, how am I self-sabotaging? How am I self-sabotaging? And maybe you'll get some answers that will surprise you. I actually think you will. Have conversations with your friends and make sure that they are lifting you up. You always hear that phrase, a high tide lifts all boats. Well, I want you to know that I hope this is a high tide for you. I hope that you feel lifted up today and have a tool or two to look back just a minute, but look through the windshield in the future and create a path for yourself to get your book done, to make the impact you want to make, to use it, to do the things that God has done for you or led you to do so that you can be your best self in the future. What if we are not living our fully abundant life that He set before us? And what if we are the one, us, that's holding us back? It's time to change and look at ways that you can change what you're thinking about, how you view the future. Catch yourself with what you're thinking about the past. Fix it if you can. If you can't, leave it go. And next week, I'll have for you a little bit more about what I learned and how the book launch for Worthy happened and all the things she did to make it a success. She was #1 on all of Amazon, the #1 book on all of Amazon. We do that for ourselves too. Have a wonderful day, my friends, and we'll see you back next week.
Was it a good session? Was it a good 12 hours?
It was. I'm trying to
Because I signed up to it and I how to self-sabotage. I don't look at my diary. So I didn't know it was on. And I hadn't written it in my diary anyway, even though I'd paid. So I will be able to listen to the recordings.
good. I'm
Oh, you're still recording.
we're still live we're recording and we're still live on YouTube. I'm trying to figure out how to stop YouTube here.
Sorry, I would just
Excuse me, just a minute. Stop recording. We've got that part going. We need to stop on our YouTube. Oh, goodness. You know, I wish that I was just a little more, tech savvy sometimes. Let me make sure that we are not still live on YouTube. I think we're good, but let me just double check again. There, I think we're good now. Double check one more thing just to make sure. I was just I'm looking here on YouTube and they are promoting a lot a big lawsuit over the movie Rust where the lady was shot. So sad.
You're
so
still showing this recording on YouTube, or you're attached to YouTube in some way.
in this so that